It's time to roll the credits with Chris and Wayne. Good evening and welcome once again to Roll the Credits with Chris and Wayne. I'm Wayne Pyle.
And I'm Chris Ty. And Roll the Credits is the official video podcast of the Hunter Mountain Film Festival, which is running for 3 days this year from October 23rd through the 25th. And we're completely online. Make sure you check out the other great content we have available at huntermountainfilmfestival.com.
Chris, were you a fan of the original Bill and Ted movies? We showed the original one to my 10-year-old recently, and he really loved it. I was a big fan back in the day, and apparently Keanu has a huge following these days as one of the nicest guys in the biz.
Well, Wayne, if we could, a moment of silence for George Carlin.
Let's raise a glass. Raise a glass. Here we go.
Of course, I was a huge fan of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure because I mean, that's where I got the term be excellent to each other. You know,
yes.
What a good year for that too. You know.
Yeah, certainly is. Did you hear that actually during this time, a new Bill and Ted movie came out? Seems like a lot of fun and a great distraction from all this craziness that's going on right now.
Well, I did hear that. I believe it's called Bill and Ted Face the Music.
It is. And it's funny that you should mention that because our special guest tonight is all about music. And he even worked on the original Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, recording and mixing sound for the film. But I think you knew that already.
That's why I threw you the transition, right?
Well, thanks for that, Chris. I always appreciate the way you do that for me.
Oh, you're welcome. As always, tonight's special guest is Alan Douches of Westside Music in the Hudson Valley, a Grammy award-winning mastering engineer with over 16,000 albums to his credit in almost every genre of music.
Wow, that is truly amazing. We can't mention all of them right now. I mean, we could, but then we'd sound like one of those old Ronco ads. But some of the talented and successful artists that Alan has worked with are also some of my favorites. Sufjan Stevens, Animal Collective, Dillinger Escape Plan, Grandmaster Flash, Fatboy Slim, Ben Folds 5, Run DMC, Fleetwood Mac, Pete Townsend, and many, 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 many more.
And he's also worked on notable film and TV projects like Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, The Wendy Williams Show, Important Things with Dimitri Martin, Crossing Over with John Edward, Another World, and as we mentioned, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. We are very pleased to welcome Alan Douches to the show tonight.
Welcome, Alan.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Thanks so much. Hey, Alan, really, that's amazing. Truly amazing work you've done over the years at Westside Music. 16,000 and counting albums and a Grammy Award. Can you tell us a little bit about the Grammy win and what that was like?
Which one?
Oh, I'm sorry. How many? How many?
There's actually 3.
3 Grammys. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
You heard it here, folks. 3 Grammys. 3 Grammys. So tell us a little bit about that.
It's interesting because, you know, as you say, 16,000 albums. I mean, a lot of that comes from the mastering credits. You know, we can work on at least one album a day.
Wow.
But we've got myself in particular have a diverse, background in music. So, so I have a Grammy for a metal record. Awesome. I have a Grammy for a children's record and a Grammy for a Broadway cast album.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it's people used to come to the studio and we have all the CDs and vinyl on the wall, and it'd be it'd be a metal band, and they'd come in and they see all this alt indie stuff on the wall, and they go, wow, who does all the alt indie stuff? And I'd go, yeah, somebody at night comes in, whatever, vice versa,
Yeah.
But it's just great music, I mean, I feel very fortunate to have, really had a career in all different genres. And sometimes, you're hot in one genre, you're hot in another. I did salsa music for like a year and a half or something, and then you go off and you do something else. So it's been fun. A lot of great bands, a lot of great artists. And that's the thing too, is a lot of artists at the beginning of their careers, we made a choice to really stay indie. I've been offered jobs at some of the largest facilities in the world, but for the most part, we really love rolling up our sleeves and getting dirty with it,
Nice. And do you have one genre that you're either more comfortable in or that you enjoy working on the most, or do you like the being eclectic and working in many
Yeah,
different?
I think I like the eclectic as well as I really like indie music, which kind of gets to indie filmmaking too. You know, it's just think about being, you know, on a Spielberg set, you got, you know, 200 people standing around for a 7-second shot, right? Like, how
Right.
exciting is that? But on an indie shoot, you know, you got the person, you know, oh wait, I got to go get, I'm gonna bake the cookies for craft services. Your
That's right.
mom's
That's
coming
right. Yeah.
baking craft cookies, you know, and it's just, I don't know, there's just a sense of living more there. Not to, you know, not to downplay the benefit of having 40 million.
No, no, I get you. I get you. I've been on many sets where it was like, who's the caterer? Oh, it's mom.
Mom, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I know, I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, I'm curious about the name West Side Music. What made you decide on that name? Where's it come from?
Yeah, well, we were originally in New York, up in the 70s on the West Side, and then we moved to Jersey. We moved to West New York, and so we kind of made a joke out of the name West Side Music, that we were the real West Side when it would get paved, that when they paved the Hudson. And it was really just a legal name just so we could, you know, cash checks. But then as the credits started rolling and, you know, and it kept showing up, I'd be like, ah, whatever, we'll keep it, you know, and now it's just stuck. And so now it's just West Side and people know it, you know. But it also goes to show that, you know, you've just got to have something catchy, whether you like it or not. You know, it was memorable. West Side, wait, West or West Side, you know, and
Yeah.
just people talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
love it.
that's
I love
actually
origin stories too. That's
Yeah,
great to
yeah,
hear how it came about.
also it's making us ask the name now and makes people talk about it. Makes you
yeah.
ask the question.
It makes you ponder for a second.
It does. Yeah, you have to. And I've actually read something recently that having repetition like that is unusual does make people actually stop and process it better.
Right
So
there,
that's,
you
yeah, that's interesting. Something to think about. Maybe I should be Wayne Pyle. Maybe.
go.
You'll be like, wait, what? What is going on? Hey, Alan, I love asking everybody who's come on to share any kind of funny or interesting stories that they can relate about their experiences throughout the years. Do you have a story that sticks out that you could share with our listeners and our viewers?
Um, I've got so many.
I'm sure. I'm
We'd
sure.
have to
Is
sit
there
around
one
the
that like you like
campfire.
to
Yeah.
tell everybody?
I have tons. I think maybe one of the relevant ones would be how when I was working with Aerosmith and Grandmaster Flash at the same time, back to
Whoa.
back, how Grandmaster, this was early, well, this was mid 80s before Run DMC did their mashup.
Wow.
Um, and Grandmaster Flash asked me to introduce him to Steven Tyler. And this was at when, you know, you couldn't tell anybody who Aerosmith was. They didn't care. And so I was just like, why do you want to do that? Like, and I introduced him to a new up and coming singer songwriter instead. And then I don't know, a year later, I, you know, saw Walk This Way come out on MTV, and I was just like, so, and that's just, you know, which led me to a great little, you know, saying that I have that I tell everybody: keep your mind open to everything and closed to nothing, because you never know. Like, I really thought that he was crazy. Like, why would you want to meet up with Aerosmith? You know,
Hmm.
like, I could understand. I mean, I homage to Aerosmith and Steve Tyler, very, very talented band, group, songwriters, etc. But they were at the bottom of their career.
Wow.
Why? Flash, hip hop is coming up. Rap,
Right.
like,
Right.
why are you going to pull down from that? But you have to have an open attitude about things and give it a try. And when you try it, don't try it half-ass. You know,
Yeah.
well, that's it. Don't try it halfway. You got to go 100% in. You've got to just say, I'm gonna commit myself to this, and that's, I think, what started happening in my career was I started committing to things in a big way, and then those projects, you know, you mentioned some of those names: Sufjan Stevens, Animal Collective, you know, Dillinger Escape Plan, Converge. You know, I just was all in with those guys, and they respected that, they loved it, and we stuck together.
That's great. That's great.
Well, I like to go back even further, talking about origins. Wayne brought up origins, and just wondering even inspired you to go into engineering to become a master engineer.
Well, I guess like most techie guys that get into this, you're a musician at some point, and you probably think that understanding the technology will help you get a leg up and, make better demos, something like that. Um, then I really just started enjoying it. I really, had a great time working with artists, and I realized like I could probably I'm able to make a living at this. This isn't wrong. Let's just keep going with it. So, and I still to this day, I think back and I go, it's been, decades of working, but I still don't, I get up without an alarm clock. It's
Mm,
like, I'm still happy to get up. I don't mind going to work. I look forward to new artists all the time. And that's the blessing of it in a sense, is that I don't feel like I've worked for 30 years. It's
wow.
really just been an awesome, awesome time.
That's really great. Well, speaking of the amount of time that you've been in the business, I'm very curious about this. You've worked on so many albums, and you've been through all of the changes in the industry as they've happened, technology wise and other ways too. What do you see as the pros and cons as things move forward, or from where you came from to where you are now, as far as technology and recording
Uh,
industry?
yeah. I think it's kind of it's paralleled a bit in both the audio and in the visual world,
Mm,
in that
yeah.
technology obviously made it a lot more affordable for artists to express themselves. Um, I
Mm.
also feel that from a technological standpoint, a lot of more indie studios just really, they weren't holding up on their end. So musicians were buying recording equipment for 2, 3, $4,000 and saying, "Well, I can do just as bad as that," and they were engaging in it. I think it's a lot like film. It's like, people are just thinking. I can't tell you how many times I know somebody that they're buying a film, they're buying a $2 or $3,000 film camera, thinking like, "Well, I can be a director," not fully understanding. But I think the technology drove that, and we do have these moments of where true talent comes out, and that technology allowed that to happen rather than going through the courses of like, did you have to be a child actor to become, a
Right.
director at
Right.
30,
Yeah.
like Ron Howard. I mean, Ron obviously very talented, but would he have had that opportunity if he wasn't a child star? Nowadays the technology's there. The playing field is pretty level. Pick up some gear. Yeah, I have a saying which is pick a format and get to work, because it doesn't matter.
Love that.
Well, what frame rate do you think I should? What are you
Right.
kidding me?
Right.
What's the story? Tell me, entertain me, make me
Yeah.
stay in a one place and keep me there, and I don't care if you're shooting in 6K, 4K, HD, it could be on, DV quality, but if the
Yeah. Yeah.
story is there, it's there, right? And it's the same thing with a performance for a musician. But, do you need that $17,000 mic? Well, it helps, but you know what? If you're singing a catchy melody and it's got a infectious track beat behind it, you're tapping your foot and you're singing that song on your way home, whatever it is. I think that's the best thing that's happened. The larger budget things in all the media formats will still push the envelope of technology. It's great to go to see those blockbusters and see what's happening, but they're not really sold on that. They're sold on their story, and
Right.
just as much as you can be entertained. Um, and I think it's like I say, I see it in audio. I saw it happening in the 90s. And and people were then coming to me with their home demos saying, "Can you make this sound better?
Mm.
Because I thought I could do it, but I couldn't. So can you fix it?" And it's kind of like the same thing is happening. I know a friend of mine is a kind of a QC guy at HBO, and
Yeah.
we have all these independent documentaries being shot, and then they hand it off to him, and HBO signs it or something, and it's his job to kind of like say, "Okay, let me make this all look good, color correction, whatever it is that he does." I don't do that stuff. So
Right. Right.
It sounds like you do a lot of different things, Alan. Can you talk a little bit about what your typical day might be like?
yeah, well, I think it goes to say that I follow where the artists that I work with go as well.
Sure.
It's inevitable that a talented songwriter is going to get asked to compose for a film, which was the case of Bill and Ted's, where there
Mm.
was I was working with a singer-songwriter, and he got the opportunity that someone else was supposed to be doing the music. Remember, that was a B flick. That was not supposed to be the
Right.
movie that it
Right.
became, in a sense. Um, and he got the opportunity to step in on it. And if we didn't go into it 100%, then they wouldn't have let us do all the, soundtrack music. But
Right.
because of that, we got that, and we have these funny stories now. But I love doing all different things. We do audio post for Peloton, and it's just exciting to try to make an instructor say, who's screaming on a treadmill for 45 minutes, trying to make them sound good,
Right. Yeah.
as well as having a classic singer step up to a vintage mic and just making that sound awesome. That's part of the diversity. I would be bored if I had to do any one area, and I see lots of people. I would get together with my friends, and I hadn't seen them maybe in 5 or 8 years, but they're not in the industry, and they're
Mm.
all, complaining about their jobs and their lives or whatever, and I'm having a good time, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we know you're having a good time." Right, okay, but you've gotta it didn't come easy, like, I mean, my dad was a plumber, and
Yeah.
gave us everything he could with what he could. But he instilled upon us the beauty of music, and just following that. Listen, I did lots of things, like drove, when I shouldn't have been driving, without insurance, and slept, in attics, and did all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you do what you
Okay.
had to do. I mean, I'm not I'm not proud of it, but times were tough, and you look back and say, yeah, I was pretty stupid, but I didn't have an option. But I
We
followed.
actually, Alan, we actually did we did a tour of Romeo and Juliet for the Baltimore Shakespeare festival, and we ended up having to all sleep in one house. Some of us ended up having to sleep in the bathtub. That's how bad it got.
Yeah,
there's like nowhere else to sleep. I ended up there's like pictures of me curled up in this bathtub with like pillows and blankets, and
right. But
just
those are the stories we tell.
yeah, yeah.
When
Those
I
were the
meet a band
times.
and I go, okay, you guys want me to help you out? Are you willing to eat Franks and beans, 6 nights a week in the back of a van?
That's right.
I mean, I wish they could do that today, but I mean, they
Yeah.
9 months ago they used to be able to do that.
Right.
But
Right.
that's the fun times. That's what we look forward to, and that's where you make those deep friendships.
Yeah, and I have
Sure.
a gearhead question for you. What's like a favorite mic or something that you like to use depending on the type of music that you're working on?
Well, I
Do you
guess my
have like a
favorite.
go-to for overall general use or
Um, I get, like if the studio were on fire, which one would I grab?
Yes, yes, that
Right,
exactly.
because
Yeah.
there is no one, but
Yes, I know.
we
Yeah.
have a 1958 C12 AKG C12.
Wow.
It's, I don't know, worth over $20,000,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Wow.
it's just really remarkable, you know how it inspires singers to sing. You
I
know,
bet.
but yeah, you put up a 414, right, or something, or you just
Right.
put something up that sounds good, and you capture it.
Yeah.
Somebody was complaining. We were doing a location shoot, and we were using these AKG wireless mics, and we had these Countryman elements on it. And he said, "Yeah, you really should be using the DPAs." I'm like, "You don't understand that, the producer didn't have audio on location. We would have been using camera audio
Right, right.
if we weren't here. So it all depends on what you have. The
Yeah.
best choice in that is, like having multiple lenses, right? What's the best lens?
Right.
Well, vintage lenses, modern lenses, what's the color? What are you trying to shoot?
Yeah.
You know?
And I like what you said because I also do think that you can still tell stories with what you've got. As long as you have something that you can, you can hear it well, you can see it well, and you can cut the story together and get it out there. Now, that is one of the advantages of the technology, the advances in technology is people carry around something they can record stories on in their pocket
Yeah.
with these phones
Yeah.
and their capabilities. You can download a whole not a whole audio studio, but you can record audio on it, you can record video on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty
But it's
amazing.
still, music, film, it's still storytelling, it's or educational, and it's entertaining, and making somebody stay tuned with you, listening, watching. Do you have that power with them?
Yeah, and always like to ask our guests if there's any advice you might give to somebody other than what we've talked about so far. People's just starting out, like even if they're young, if they're older, and they decide they want to get into either engineering or sound work on films or that kind of thing. What kind of advice would you give to somebody just starting out?
Um, well, I guess the main piece of advice I give out, I'll also roll back on after I say it, but which is don't go to school for this.
I gotcha.
Um, but yet, most of the people that I hire on our staff have gone to school for this. And I teach lectures at some of the SUNY systems and William Patterson, some other colleges as well. And there's not a lot of other places for kids to learn, you know. Um, either like should you do you have to go to NYU to be a film, cinematographer, or
Right.
can you just pick up? Well, you're going to learn, you're going to meet people, etc.
Yeah.
It's tough. Don't I would say don't let that schooling be the reason why you think you're going to get somewhere. I think there are some great schools. They have much better programs now than they did, but I'm really kind of upset that there's no internship really like it used to be. Where
Right.
kids would just learn on location, on set, in a studio, something like that. I think that's what, everybody recording at home or just, shooting on their iPads, iPhones, whatever, it's taken a lot of that away.
Sure.
And kids are just, they're learning quicker. It's art. I mean, like I said, if it entertains me, if it can keep me captivated and tell me the story, I really don't care how it's done. But I do often wind up in the music business, in the music recording end, where people are saying, yeah, but how do I get this? And it's like, okay, well, you've got to do this, that it back or whatever. And I know that there's same things in the film world, even acting, it's just because you can, be cast in the role that you are, you might be asked to do something else. And I'm sure that learning all of the disciplines comes into play and comes into help. So
I'm a strong believer in that too. Like having as much knowledge as possible, knowing technical aspects of filmmaking can help you be a better actor because you know what's going on the
yeah.
other side, and you know how you can sort of support that better by knowing
Oh yeah.
as much about the technical side of things as possible. I was curious when you were talking, when you meet younger people these days that are digital natives, do they seem to have more of a feeling for your type of work, or are they sometimes, not to generalize too much, but do you find it sometimes harder to teach them or to get them on board? I'm just curious about that.
They certainly jump all over the technology,
Yeah.
and they get that quick. And if I don't have one of those kids around to help me keep on top of my technology, I'm kind of
Yeah,
lost.
I gotcha.
Um, but they also don't have the patience
Yeah.
per se, and that kind of, all right, listen, we're going to make this perfect, we're going to sit this out, we're going to try it one more time, they're very much eager to fix it digitally or something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
rather than capture that performance. It is a shame too that in the audio world that it's extremely rare for people to hear a full analog process.
Mm.
Even if you're buying vinyl, very often these days, people are plugging their turntables into their USB ports,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so there is a sense of what's missing. We have an analog 2-inch machine, and we do transfers for people a lot. And sometimes we'll say put up the tape, and you put it up, and the assistant's listening, and they're like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, yeah, that's analog. It sounds awesome. I mean, yeah, you got to have a, playback system,
Mm-hmm.
probably not unlike, in the visual world, like, having truly great lenses. I learned that lesson, I guess, early on. I bought a Panasonic DVX 100, which
Mm-hmm.
was, it recorded to DV tape, but I kept pondering why does, although it had a good Zeiss lens.
Mm-hmm. I have the
Um,
same camera, by the
you have the same camera, right?
way. Yeah.
But it doesn't capture that same glow,
No,
and
sure doesn't.
it's like it's in the glass, guys. It's
Mm-hmm.
so
Mhm. Well, Alan, your website is westsidemusic.com, and people can visit that site if they'd like to find out more about you and what you do.
Great.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
Um, I think just remember, uh, I think Spielberg said audio is half the picture, something like that, and
Profound.
we really, really love audio post, and that's kind of, we moved to the Hudson Valley 14, 15 years ago, and we really wanted to make a go for that. Like Bill and Ted started the whole trip, but we believe we want to try to do for the indie filmmaker what we've done for the indie music world, where bring high quality audio to that, that just because you don't have a big budget doesn't mean you can't have great audio.
Great.
So we do Atmos mixing, we do, and so that's the thing we want to try and help people do. It's a really wonderful environment, and to help tell the story, that's the key. And
Yes.
audio can do that.
Yes, and let me just ask you this too. With all of this craziness going on, have you noticed anything opening up as far as more work coming your way or anything like that? What's the outlook been for you so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've seen is that, yeah, we're getting smaller groups together. People are doubling up on jobs. The gaffer is also, part of
Yeah.
the electrical crew or something. I don't
Sure,
know.
sure.
It's not as many people on a set. Or same
Yeah.
thing in a recording. We don't have assistants around during the sessions. The whole band does not need to be here. We can just get one guy to do their job. But I do see everybody being careful. We're all very careful with it.
Yeah.
And people are taking that. The people we're running into, they're taking it very seriously.
Right.
We would, people got to get out to theater, to film venues and live venues. We can't do that if we're careless,
Yeah. Yeah.
We really want to see everybody start enjoying themselves again.
Yeah. Well, Alan, thanks so much for joining us
Yeah, my
tonight.
pleasure.
It was a real pleasure having you. Thank you so much
amazing.
for sharing your time with us. I just want to remind everyone before we go tonight to keep checking out all of the great content at huntermountainfilmfestival.com. The festival runs from October 23rd through the 25th and is all online. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Chris, I think it's that time again. Time to
Roll the credits.
Thanks, Alan. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.